Hi, my name's Damien Wills and welcome to GoFly Online. Today we'll be visiting the Queensland Air Museum based at Caloundra on the beautiful Sunshine Coast, and we're going to be meeting up with the team who are restoring the classic Neptune aircraft. Very exciting.
I was lucky enough to be assigned to the aeroplanes a year after they arrived in Australia. Got to Townsville in September of 1963, and this is actually the first aircraft I ever flew in on the squadron, so it's got sentimental value. It was a great aeroplane to operate, a crew of 10, 2 pilots, 3 navigators, 1 down in the nose, 1 at the nav table, and 1 called the tactical coordinator, who required a lot of experience in order to get there, but he was at the radar position. Behind us, where we are in the cockpit, were 2 other sensor operators, and then further aft the radio operator just past the main spar, and finally 2 lookouts down in the tail section. So we could fly for 12 or 13 hours at a time. So there's a small galley down there so we could heat up TV dinner type meals, which the flight kitchen would create. And we could also heat up water for tea and coffee.
And tell us about a typical mission or sortie. What would that involve?
Usually we were assigned a search area. The airplane's primary purpose was anti-submarine warfare and maritime surveillance. So typically we would be assigned a search area that might be 600 or 800 nautical miles or 1,200 kilometres from base. So we'd fly out there at about 180 knots true and at about 5,000 feet. And then on arrival in the assigned area, we would lay patterns of sonobuoys to listen for those sounds of engines and propellers of ships and submarines and categorise them based on prior intelligence. That would enable us to determine whether the people in the area were friendly or foe or the target we were looking for. In the weapons bay below the tactical station, we could carry homing torpedoes, bombs, mines, depth charges, search and rescue equipment, or additional fuel tanks.
I was a war baby. I was brought up with the Battle of Britain heroes, which made me interested in aeroplanes. I built model aeroplanes. I joined the Air Cadets when I was 14, got to fly gliders. I used to hang around the local flying club to get rides and help the mechanic push aeroplanes around. When I retired, I came to the museum here just at the same time as we bought the Neptune. I went up to Mariba with the team to take it apart, and then when it came back down here I was asked to take on the rebuilding of it. I don't really know why, but maybe I was just the one didn't step back fast enough when they asked for volunteers. And the 5 years since, I've spent working on it with the other guys. We had it on its wheels but without the outer wings and without the fin for quite a long time while we worked on various things in it which we had to do before it was completed. Yes. We're still working on things like that now. I mean, I'm making new inspection plates for the top of the wings because of corrosion on them, which is the biggest problem with the aircraft.
Okay, I'm here with Peter in front of the Neptune. Peter, tell us a bit about yourself and your background with aviation and the Queensland Air Museum.
I joined the Queensland Air Museum in about 2008, having had absolutely no experience with aviation in my life except to be a passenger. Once we had the fuselage assembled, we had to do things like refurbish the main landing gear. We didn't have any jacks, so we got a pile of timber, mounted 2 20-ton jacks on top of this platform, jacked the weight of the aeroplane and refurbished the main landing gear. And it's at the moment standing and not leaking. It's all good. The next challenge was things like fitting the jet pods. Obviously you can't use a forklift or a crane because there's a wing in the way, so we put it on the back of the museum truck, put a floor jack underneath it and jacked it up, and the important thing is that 4 bolt holes had to align exactly. They did. So on the first try, jet pod mounted, bolts in, all good. Other challenges were fitting the fin. It took a day with a crane to lift it, and put it in position and put sufficient bolts in it so that it wouldn't fall off. And it took us another 3 days then to finish completing the attachment, because the tail section of the aeroplane is full of equipment that meant access was almost impossible. However, we've won, and there it is, it hasn't fallen off. Other things that were impossible were, for example, the radio compartment. To get to the construction joint, we had to remove the electronic racks and all the black boxes mounted on them, but some of it could not be removed. So people were contorted in the weirdest positions to get access to the bolt holes to enable the refitting of these bolts. And bear in mind, 135 holes in one section of the fuselage had to exactly meet the 135 holes in the other section, or the bolts weren't going to go in. And it worked. Done with very skillful Franna crane drivers, a series of jacks at the right place to make minute adjustments, and it only took a day to get the two pieces together, and then another couple of days to finish bolting it up so that it would be secure. So by the mid of 2019, we'd spent 3.5 years assembling everything, and the aeroplane had all its bits together for the first time in 40 years. And that's where we are today.
Well, thanks for joining us today in GoFly Online. If you liked our episode today, please give us a like or leave a comment. See you next time.